us master the CBSE Class 10th Science Chapter 8 Heredity. We know that our DNA is responsible for the creation of our body structure and its characteristics. But how does our DNA do that? Well, DNA strand consists of genes which code for a particular protein or enzyme to build our body. Any alteration in the gene would result in a different protein, in turn making the organism a little different than the other. That is how we have different traits in a characteristic such as tall and short, or different body types, or different skin colors. Now, where are we getting these genes from? Well, the DNA that we have actually is coming from our parents. The DNA from both the parents merge to give rise to an individual which has traits from both the parents. Now, when you have two different kind of parents with different characteristics, whose characteristics would the child get? Well, to prove this, Mendel, the father of genetics, conducted some experiments to determine and propose the law of dominance and law of independence. Mendel took the help of pea plants to help determine this law of inheritance. So he took one pure tall pea plant and one pure short pea plant. By pure tall, we mean that both the parents of the tall plant were also tall and the parents of the short plant were also short. If we represent capital T as tall and small t as short, writing the genotype of the tall plant, since both parents are tall and genes come from both the parents, we can represent the pure tall plant as capital T and capital T, and the short plant will be represented as small t and small t, which shows the genes coming from both the parents and their type. Mendel crossed these two pure or homogeneous tall and homogeneous short plant and expected a result probably to get some medium sized plants or some short and some tall plants. The result of the first generation was shock to himself, where he got all tall plants. When he saw all the tall plants, he was wondering if they just look tall or are tall from inside or genetically as well. So, to determine their genotype, he wrote the gametes that can be formed from both the parents. As we are aware, from sexual reproduction, when there are two parents, they form gametes through the process of meiosis. Pure tall plant would perform meiosis and give rise to capital T and capital T gamete, and the short plant would give rise to small t and small t. Now, upon merging this, we understand that the tall from one parent and the short from one parent have combined to give rise to a tall offspring, which looks tall but internally has the short gene. Hence, the tall trait has dominated over the short trait, which shows that there is a trait which is dominant over the other, and the dominant trait is expressed in the F1 generation. The short trait or the other trait which isn't expressed is present in the gene, but it is not expressed as it is a recessive trait. This gave the law of dominance. Mendel wanted to confirm if this theory is true and performed another experiment on the same plant, where he took the two tall plants from the F1 generation and selfed them with each other. When he selfed them, he got 3 tall plants and 1 short plant. This was also shocking to him, how the tall plants were more than the short plant. Hence, he wanted to determine them genetically, and he started with writing the gametes of the two parents. So, in this case, the gametes would be one capital T and small t in both the parents. To determine the offspring, he drew a Punnett square where he could explain the genotype of the offsprings. So the two tall genes gave rise to one pure tall pea plant, and the other two gave rise to two tall pea plants which look tall but also have the recessive short gene. And the two short genes gave rise to the short pea plant. This is how Mendel could obtain the F2 generation, where had 3 tall plants, 1 short plant, phenotypically giving the ratio of tall is to short, which is 3 is to 1. And genotypically, it had 1 pure tall plant, 2 heterogeneous tall plants, that is, genetically they are not pure tall, but they appear to be tall, and 1 pure short plant, giving rise to the genotypic ratio 1 is to 2 is to 1. This was the law of dominance experiment by Mendel. Mendel wanted to confirm if two characteristics influence each other during the process of inheritance. So Mendel considered two characteristics at once, which is shape of the seed and color of the seed. So let us consider capital R for round seed and small r for wrinkled seeds, and capital Y for yellow color of the seed and small y for green color of the seed. Writing their genotype, we can represent, since they are pure round and yellow and pure wrinkled and green, to be represented as below. So upon crossing this in the F1 generation, he again saw the F1 law of dominance, where all the progeny of F1 generation were round and yellow, and genetically they were similar to that of the first experiment, where round and yellow gene was considered dominant over the wrinkled and the green trait. Upon making a selfing of the F1 generation, he found out that he had 9 round and yellow seeds, 3 round and green seeds, 3 yellow and wrinkled seeds, and 1 wrinkled and green seed. How did he arrive at this? He first derived the gametes of the F1 generation, which would be as such, where each trait is taken independent of each other. That is, the shape of the seed does not influence the color of the seed. Hence, each gamete independently acquired both the traits, which merged to give rise to the F2 generation. This gave the law of independence, where each characteristic is independent of each other and no characteristic influences the other, and they are acquired independently as per the law of dominance. The F2 generation in 2 traits had a phenotypic ratio of 9 is to 3 is to 3 is to 1. Sex determination. How is the sex of the offspring or the gender of the offspring determined in the case of human beings? The male and the female gender have almost all chromosomes similar to that of each other, except for the last chromosome, where in boys or males it is XY and in females it is XX. So when the two parents, which is a man and a woman, come together, the XY from the man and the XX from the woman give rise to separate kind of gamete, where the man has X and Y gamete and the woman has X and X gamete. Upon merging of each gamete, it could give rise to XX, which could be a girl child, and XY, which could be the boy child. Now, there is 50% probability of each of them occurring, and the sex of the child is actually determined by the father of the child, which is also not in his control, given that there is 50% probability of each gender. This completes this chapter on heredity.
Thank you for watching till the end of the video. Hope you have understood the concept and scored well in your quiz. Like and share this video. Comment on this video on what would you like to watch next. Subscribe to the channel and tap the bell icon for more such videos.